So first, let me start by apologizing to my fellow co-speakers and presenters this afternoon. Cybersecurity probably scared away half the audience. So there are two kinds of people in this room. The people that have been hacked, and there are people that have been hacked and know it, and the people that just don't know it yet. In November 2015, I got a call from my Scarborough branch of my bank. They called to confirm a couple of wire transfers that I did, and wire transfers aren't abnormal, but the funds were being directly rerouted to an international account. I didn't know about it. I didn't know I got hacked. So to really understand why cybersecurity is so rampant, we need to look at the speed of technology adoption. Yeah. Whoops. And I think we know technology is rapidly being adopted, but do we really know how quickly? So if we just looked at electricity, it took electricity 46 years, right, to get 250,000 users on board. Radio, 31 years. Mobile phone, 13 years. The web, 7 years. Right? But that's old news, right? Facebook. Bernadette, could you give her an iPad for anybody who answers these questions? Facebook, 1 million users. How long do you think?
6 months, 2 years.
6 months, 2 years? Close? 10 months. 1 million users. Dropbox. 7 months. Instagram. 2.5 months. No iPad, I keep it. Anybody heard of Path? I have never heard of Path. Path hit 1 million users in 2 weeks. So that's what we're dealing with. Now, there are a couple of emergent themes affecting us, so let's bear these in mind as I go. I touch back on a couple important events in technological history. So this is the first big one for me. In 1969, there was the formulation of ARPANET, and it was $1 million in 1969, redirected from the Department of Defense. And what they did is set up the first communication network, which was the foundation of the internet. It's huge. It's the first time that two computers spoke to each other. Yeah. So I'm a data guy, so lots of facts, excuse me. In 1969, that same year, the Apollo space shuttle landed on the moon using a computer. Right? A couple of years later, 81, we had the first PC being developed by IBM. Strangely enough, the following year, we had our first virus. And this was the Elk clonal virus, and it was actually written to attack Apple Macintosh. Go figure, right? So, but this dawned the new age of hackers, the new generation of nuisance hacking. And these are really, kids in hoodies at internet cafes, right, banging away at code, sending off emails, trying to prove how smart they are. But we've come a long way since then. In 1992, we had the first smartphone. It was the IBM Simon Personal Communicator, 92. It was touchscreen. Almost as sexy as the iPhone, right? In 96, cloud was first coined by compact computers. Anybody owned a compact computer? Yeah. Where's compact today? Yeah. Absorbed. IoT, first coined in 99, coined by Procter & Gamble. You know what they make? Baby powder, toothpaste. Yeah. And they've actually just created the first connected toothbrush. You see how that pans out? So in 2000, we had the first really big one, right? We had the I Love You virus. And this really got the attention of the international community. This worm spread quickly to millions of computers in days and caused $5 billion in damages. Right. Amazon Web Services, 2006. Amazon Web Services was first born in 2006, and it just took a little over a year for Amazon Web Services bandwidth to surpass the Amazon global website. In 2006 as well, we had the first wireless blood glucose monitor. Right. We had biological implants devices that were now wireless. Right. Dick Cheney got a heart implant which pumps his blood. It's wireless. Can you imagine what an assassination attack could look like today? Right. So I told you I scared everybody away, right? In 2008, very interesting time, we had more connected things than connected people. In 2010, anybody know about Stuxnet? No? Stuxnet was a nemesis for World War III. It was a targeted attack on the Iranian nuclear enrichment facility, Natanz. What this did is got into the computer systems, into the controllers for the nuclear plant, and it recorded the normal behavior of the plant. And then it attacked the PLCs, it sped up the PLCs, it slowed them down until the centrifuges that enriched uranium exploded. While it did that, it played back the regular activity of a normal operating plant. So nobody knew what was happening. And what this is the first time that digital connected to physical. This was the dawn of a new type of attack, the nation-state attack. And it wasn't hoodies and hackers and kids in internet cafes. It was guys in military uniforms, in government buildings, behind desks, building cyber weapons of mass destruction. Right. On a lighter note, the iPhone 5 was released in 2012. And why this is important, right, is the iPhone 5 is 1,000,000 times faster than the computer that landed the space shuttle on the moon. What could a hacker do with an iPhone 5 if that little computer could land a space shuttle on the moon? Bangladesh Bank, 80 million. Anybody heard about this one? So very fortunately, I mean, it was malware, and they got into the system and they wired out money. And I know somebody mentioned central bank earlier. We did a cybersecurity benchmarking on central bank, and their CyberScore, which is much like a credit score, was very similar to the Bank of Bangladesh when they got breached. Right? But fortunately, we called them and we let them know about it and some remediation. But Bank of Bangladesh could have been a lot worse. The hackers intended to wire out 800 million, but fortunately they could program a little better than they could count. Right? And this was the start of organized crime, right, in cyber hacking. And these are guys with regular 8 to 4 jobs. Drop the kids to soccer, take weekends off. Right? They're funded, they're structured, organized. In 2017, we had 3.8 billion internet users, which surpasses the 51% of the overall population of the world. This year as well, we're going to see 3.5 billion mobile users. My colleague was talking about 2.1 million subscribers in Trinidad and Tobago alone. It's interesting to note that 80% of the data used on phones is actually through Wi-Fi networks. This year we have 8.4 billion IoT devices. Now remember, we only had 7.6 billion people on the planet. And this number is projected to grow 120% over the next couple of years. Cloud revenue is worth $246 billion this year. And to put that into a framework, the GDP of Trinidad and Tobago is 26 million. This is the GDP of Trinidad and Tobago for the next 11 years. That's just cloud. 2017, the WannaCry virus, which took down 45 hospitals in the UK. Cyber affects our lives, not only our lifestyles. This year as well, the Destroyer crash override virus took down the Ukrainian power grid. Anybody familiar with Equifax? Yeah? Yeah. So this is Equifax's share price the day that they announced the breach. And the breach happened through a third-party website that wasn't patched. It was a patch that was announced in March. The hackers got it in May, and they didn't find out about it for 3 months. Right? 143 million users were affected. Deloitte, you have people walking out on me. It's sad. No, I feel suicidal listening to this thing. I just want to swim back to Trinidad. So Deloitte was also hacked last week. Right? Deloitte is one of the big four. They're these guys telling people how to secure their environment. Yeah. But in 2020, we're going to have 4 billion connected people, $4 trillion in revenue, 25 million apps, 50 trillion gigabytes of data. I don't even know how much that is. Right? But the cost of cybercrime is going to be worth $2.5 trillion. Again, to frame it, GDP of Trinidad and Tobago for the next 100 years in 2020. Right? So these are the emerging themes that we really need to think about as we plan for the digital age of tomorrow. The scope of what we need to protect is increasing dramatically. The traditional four walls, a static environments, are no longer applicable in today's world. And as we add an assortment of things, we adopt cloud so rapidly, and we tighten our supply chains, our traditional perimeter is melting, and the attack surface is expanding at the same time. This requires a completely new way to look at cybersecurity. So let's talk about IoT, Internet of Things, for a little bit. So IoT brings sensors and compute power on a scale that we haven't seen before in a very ubiquitous fashion. It offers greater productivity, but brings on a whole new level of risk when cyber and physical can't be distinguished. Sensors and small computing devices connected to a physical and in some cases critical infrastructure make it potentially very dangerous. Are we talking about water, power, telecommunication, air traffic, or financial systems? Right? This is the real risk here. And I know the team of the conference is connected to Tobago and all of these things. But smart or connected means vulnerable. Cloud. So there's very rapid adoption of cloud. We have 50% annual revenue increase every year, year on year. And it's great. We're moving applications and data from on-prem to a host of vendors who can basically help us do business anywhere, anytime, seamlessly. Right? But what this is doing for us is really creating two things. It's melting our traditional perimeter. So our traditional way of protecting our environments just don't work in the cloud world. But the bigger problem is this, is our lack of visibility. How do we know what's being accessed? What's being downloaded? Right now, an employee of your organization could be in the nearest coffee shop downloading critical information. Supply chain. And we spend time and money securing our environments. And then we connect suppliers, customers into our environments. But sometimes they're not quite as diligent as we are. And third-party risk is a big deal. It becomes a case of who's the weakest link. Yeah. JP Morgan Chase, perfect example, website hack. So a third-party website provider was hacked, and they got into JP's environment. We spoke about Equifax, which is very similar as well. Target was hacked. Their point-of-sale environment was hit because of a heating and cooling vendor. We need to be careful who we do business with. So, not all grim. Mostly is. So what are some of the solutions? Right? I mean, the first solution is this. We could outsource work, but we can't outsource responsibility. It's not often that we hear about a vendor being breached. Right? More often than not, we hear about the company that got hacked and the data that they lost. Right? The data belongs to us, and we need to take more ownership of it. Continuous monitoring. So I work with a lot of customers that go after ISO certifications. They get a nice piece of paper. They have a stamp that they can put on all their documents. I have lots of time, don't worry. Thanks. Yeah. But they get these nice certificates. 2 weeks later, they get hacked and they don't know about it. So we need to encourage third-party monitoring using independent vendors to look at our environments in real time and tell us if there are breaches. Cyberscoring, which is much like Moody's. It's like the CyberScore, the credit scoring system in the US. And typically, the banks have it down, the financial institutions have it down. Before I do business with a bank, or a bank actually does business with me, right? I go to them and they pull my credit score. They want to know what my history looks like. We could apply the same principles to cyber. We could look at somebody's cyber score and we could decide, yes, I want to do business with you. Yes, the risk is acceptable. Trust. And as we start adopting more and more technology, we have more and more passwords. We have more and more logins everywhere. I mean, anybody have less than 5 passwords in this room? Yeah. Trust becomes a big thing. Right? So what we need to be able to do is establish trusted relationships between our parties, our vendors, so that access to one vendor could follow on to other solutions. And we're not typing in passwords every single time we have to log into something. Information sharing is a big one. And what I have found in many cases, organizations are very, very reluctant to divulge breaches. And this presents a huge problem. Right? If I've been hacked and I share my information with somebody else, there's a greater likelihood that that person will not be breached. Yeah? So what we need to do is develop on a system. We need to work on a system, a platform, a process to share information. But to share information, I mean, by nature, we focus on the bullet wound. But we also need to focus on the guy with the gun. So we need to share information on the breach as well as the person behind the breach to reduce these things. But at the end of the day, cybercrime is a business. We need to focus on reducing the profitability of that business. Right? Anybody familiar with the dark web? Yeah? Good. So it's this little space on the internet. It's a little difficult to get. You have to get a special browser and all sorts of things. But there's a market space in the dark web. And it's very much like Amazon. And you could go there and you could hire a hacker. And you could see his reviews, you could see his history, you could see the jobs that he's done. You could buy malware the same way. And in a lot of cases, you get money back guarantees if these things don't work. Yeah. So we need to come together and ensure that we're able to reduce the profitability of this business. Right. So on a closing note, I just wanted to touch on this one. And I want to factor this in. So this is me in the middle here. And my forte is really data and analytics. But data always comes around, the cyber conversation always comes around when you start talking about data. But we really need to prepare our next generation of soca warriors. The cyber soca warriors. And I had the honor of participating in this technology summer camp right here in Tobago. It was put on by Dr. Levis Guy. And it was largely at her expense, her personal expense. Right? And the camp was focused on science, technology, maths. But more than that, Levis wants to inspire the next generation of leaders in our country. Dreamers, entrepreneurs. She wants every child to know that they were born on these little two rocks, right? But we have the ability to change the world. And that's the message I want to leave with you.